You wouldn't believe
Winning the division. Next.
You wouldn't believe it if I told you, but the Vegas Golden Knights finished 8th in the conference, 4th in the division, still had 98 points, but they're 1 year removed from a Stanley Cup victory, a little bit of a closer than comfortable trip to the postseason. Everyone was going to be mad, so mad about Mark Stone going on LTIR to end the season, only to come back for Game 1, but Dallas beat them, and we all kind of forgot about it.
Dude, the West is friggin' hard. Like, can we just talk? Like, it's absolutely really ridiculous. They went 7 with Dallas, who went, I don't think it was 7 with Edmonton.
It was 6 with Edmonton.
It was a vicious 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really, really, really hard to get through that conference.
So let's take a look at some key additions here, guys. 2 major ones came at the deadline. We had Noah Hannafin and Thomas Hertl, both coming in on huge trades. In the offseason, Vegas lost Chandler Stevenson to Seattle. They are currently $3 million over the cap, but, once LTIR is activated, it's not like they're afraid of using it.
Well, it wasn't just Stevenson in him.
Team is a bit older. Who else did they lose, Steve?
Their playoff MVP, Jonathan Marchessault.
That's right. Big one. What do we think, gentlemen, about the Vegas Golden Knights this year? What stood out?
Jesse, you want to go first or should I?
No, go ahead.
So it's still a very, very good team. It's a very, very good team. Disappointing from like the draft onward, basically, because we always expect them to make a splash and have fireworks, and all they really did was lose people. But they added so big last year that basically we finally get to see the team that Vegas already built like at least 6 months ago, right? Hertl played 2 regular season games for Vegas. Hannafin wasn't there all that long. So even though they didn't have a very busy summer, they're still going to be a very new look team. Make no mistake.
Jesse Blake.
Yeah, I don't like how poorly they played last regular season, because I was looking at some of the month by month stats, and if you look at those, like consistently throughout the regular season, they were ranked in like the 19th through 20th place in league standings. They won every 10 games. They won 6 games. They were 6-4 every 10 games, and it allowed them to be a good team because they were consistent out the entire regular season. But they never really took off at any point. And then you lose a couple bodies this offseason, but the defense is all still there that we kind of all love, and we know that they have a great system in Vegas. So I'm not too down on them. It's just I expected more last season. So this season I'm kind of indifferent on where they're at.
This is why you don't write them off. Hannafin, Pietrangelo, McNabb, Theodore, Haig, Whitecloud. Our cup runneth over. That's freaking ridiculous.
Well, and I wanted to bring up a point, Jesse. When we went into the 2023 playoffs, I remember distinctly sitting in this room, and you were like, listen, the Vegas Golden Knights are better than you think because they're mid at everything. Would you still say that they're mid at everything, or are they lower than mid, and that's kind of the problem?
Yeah, no, I think the problem is, in my mind, I expect them to be better than what they were last season. Last year, I had high expectations going for them for that playoff run. I expected them to get past Dallas, and 2 games in, they looked so good, being up 2-0, and then they faltered. So that's my lasting impression of them. But I'm trying to get over that feeling going into a new season fresh, and you look at who they have on the back end, as Steve pointed out, and they always seem to find a way to get solid goaltending. Losing Logan Thompson isn't insignificant at all. He's in
big.
Washington, I believe, now. Is that
Washington, and they replaced him with a guy who was drafted by Washington, Ilya Samsonov.
Hey, don't forget about Akira Schmid, too. They signed him.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so the goaltending might be a little different. So I don't expect them to be a dominant team this regular season, because I have a couple teams ahead of them in the standings, but I still expect them to be a playoff team.
It's not their priority.
The regular season?
Regular season.
Not at all.
So
that's why I feel like it's okay to be like, okay, Vegas isn't going to win the division, storm through the entire conference, and be this great regular season team, because they know that that's not the goal here. The goal is Stanley Cup.
So I have 2 big points that I want to talk about. It's up front and it's in net. Where should I start?
I would start in net, because I think it's the most glaringly obvious.
All right, Aiden Hill, you won a cup with him. He's making starter money. He's your starter. No problem. There you go. Great. Ilya Samsonov. So, as a Toronto fan, we are uniquely familiar with this player.
As are Cap fans.
Here's the thing. Last year, for 3 months, he was the worst goalie in the NHL. At very minimum, he was below average. October, November. December came, he was unplayable. There are only 13 goalies in the NHL over the past 2 seasons who have reached 50 wins, and he's one of them. Now, you might say, well, he's tied with Vitek Vanacek, who is also in that group of 13. So maybe that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But his record over the past 2 seasons is 50, 17, and 13. So what is that? That's 30, 80. Out of 80 games, he only failed to get points in the standings in 17 of them.
It's pretty good.
That is, if he's going to be a tandem goalie or a backup goalie for this team, bang, great. Like, we know this human being for all the stinky goals he's going to allow, for all the times he loses his posts and drops his stick. It's going to drive you out of your mind. We know this guy is capable of getting points in the standings. And, well, the Leafs were a good team last year. Well, Vegas is a good team. Like, I know it's the regular season. The Leafs are the better regular season.
Might we say, too, that Vegas is a better defensive team?
Way better defensive team. Now, here's the part that surprised me. Barbashev and Stone, great wingers. Unreal, right? Here's the rest of them, according to Daily Faceoff. Victor Olofsson, Pavel Dorofeev, Brendan Brisson, Alexander Holtz, Brett Howden, Keegan Colasar. Oof. Like, there's a lot of youth there and a lot of inexperience for a team that is a cup contender. Year in and year out, they're a cup contender. And that roster's jump ball. Like, I don't think Daily Faceoff has it right at all. Their top line has Olofsson on it. No shot. Except there is a shot on account of they have so much youth and inexperience on this roster. It's
I think you're
they're going to have a lot of guys go in and out of that lineup.
I do want to spotlight one guy, Pavel Dorofeev, who you mentioned. 13 minutes he averaged last season. He only played 47 games, still managed to put together 13 goals and 24 points.
That's a good
If he
season.
can keep just that
Yes.
over 80,
That pace.
you're well into the 40, almost 50 points. And
Alexander Holtz, 7th overall pick, 2020.
yeah, which is funny. It's a funny draft, right? You know, it's
a weird draft.
Weird. I think that they have to, and at a certain point in a team's, I don't know what you would call it, like in the team's life, in an era of here are our stars and here are the other players, you do have to take some chances with some young players. And Vegas hasn't had to do that. They had
Not since
guys,
not since their inauguration.
their entire team.
Yeah.
But, William Karlsson, who's the only one I think left over. You had guys like Karlsson, Riley Smith, Jonathan Marchessault on deals that were super low. Even James Neal wasn't making that much in his first season with Vegas, if you guys remember.
They didn't
and I
really
think,
have any stars making star money. Yeah.
yeah, and this is the first time where we've really had to go, okay, let's dip into the farm system and not trade them to Montreal or trade them to San Jose or trade them wherever.
Yeah.
Jesse,
Yeah.
when you look at that forward group, do you see a team that can, remember, they're going to play most of their games against their own division. Do you see a team that can compete in a division that's that strong?
Yeah, I don't really think the playoff teams in the division are going to change. And I don't even think the top end is going to change that much. So they're going to be able to compete. They're going to be able to beat up on the Sharks of the world and the Ducks of the world. Like, they'll be fine. It's just I don't look at this roster and where they're coming from last season and say they're going to run away with the President's Trophy.
So here's their strength. Even though they lost Chandler Stevenson up the middle, Eichel, Hurdle, Karlsson, and very underrated Nick Waugh.
Yeah.
Like, dude, really strong. Like, Jason York made such a good point when he came on our show at some point last season. We were looking at Ottawa's centers, and they're all good. We're like, what's the problem here? But they were all really young. Like, there's a crazy amount of talent up the middle, but they're also really experienced. So that's how you get away with the inexperience on the wings. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, and the pieces that went out, I feel like we're not giving them enough credit, like Marchessault and Stevenson. Like, those are big losses.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Stevenson, you're at very least replacing.
Yeah.
With Hurdle.
Yes.
That, like, I sort of look at that as, okay, one out, the other in. Marchessault is the one they're not even bothering
Right, but like
to
the
replace.
the Stevenson Hurdle combo was a combo we saw last season.
Yes.
Like at their peak when you're supposed to be your best, they had it together, and
Yeah.
they faltered against Dallas.
Asterisk though, because it's Hurdle coming off of injury and like
All right,
they
he did
they-
played 6 regular season games.
Oh, it was 6.
It was 6.
Meh. It like still coming off of injury. Like
Totally.
they had a chance there, and they were up 2-0. They did blow it. But I still don't think it wasn't what we all thought it was going to be, which was this unbeatable juggernaut.
Yeah, and that's because I'm like that's what I thought.
Right.
And they fell short of those expectations.
Yeah. No, I understand.
So that's
I
why
understand
I'm
what
down.
you're getting at. I feel like as long it doesn't matter who's in your lineup, as long as they're actually healthy and understand their teammates, they might get off to a bad start. But again, it's Vegas. They don't care.
Important to note, they will be going up against, these are the playoff teams from last year in the division, the Vancouver Canucks, Edmonton Oilers, Stanley Cup finalists, Los Angeles Kings, and of course Vegas, who finished a point behind the LA
Did you
Kings.
still the Canucks Stanley Cup Finals?
No, I said the Oilers. So the Vegas Golden Knights had 98 points last year. The over-under is set at 98.5. Will they be over or under that, Jesse Blake? And what position are they going to finish in the division this year?
I'm going to take them in 3rd in the Pacific. I'll say over just by default of that positioning. You're probably going to be in and around 99, 100 points.
I am also going to say 3rd. I'll say 99. I'll take the over.
I say over as well. 3rd in the division. I think 102 points.
That's a bad omen.
Why is that a bad omen?
We all agree on something.
Oh.
Now I want to change my
Damn.
And on the first
Aiden
one,
Hill's going to win the
never
Vezina.
happened.
Oh, God. All right, they're finishing last.